Hi there, and welcome to a very different conversation today. Today it's a chat with Andy Greenhouse, and we talk about life and creativity and imposter syndrome and writing and AI. It's a very different kind of a conversation where we explore the humanness of challenging ourselves and coming up with reasons to stay motivated and build momentum and build communities. So I can't wait for you to really dive in, take a listen, and see what we have been up to with Andy.
But before we start our conversation, here's your reminders. Please do subscribe, hit notifications on Spotify or YouTube, wherever you're watching or listening to this. Feel free to share it with friends or colleagues or anybody, but it is about just following us, subscribing, and getting the notifications when new videos or our podcast goes out, as well as our Patreon account, where we have a really great gold nugget from Andy today, which then goes into our gold nugget section on Patreon. But there's also a free section on Patreon where we're having snippets of older episodes so that you get little reminders. But enough about that. Let's get into our really great conversation with Andy.
Hi, Andy.
Hey, how you doing?
So, a little bit of a backstory. Andy and I connected on LinkedIn a while ago. I don't know when, but I've been following his content. He's a creative, he's a writer, he's a videographer. He has such a wealth of insights, and I can't wait to see where this conversation's gonna go. But before we dive in, Andy, just tell people a little better than I just did who you are, what you do, what you're interested in, because I think your interests and your passions drive so much of what you do, and that's something that we can talk about today.
Yeah, thanks, Linka. Well, I'm Andy, and I can never quite describe exactly what I do. I am a creative director and director, but it took me a long time to actually get to the point where I could say I was a director because I had massive imposter syndrome, and now I'm comfortable with it. But I originally started in in film when film was film, and as a production assistant and runner back in the day, and fell into magazines. I studied graphic design, so it was kind of a natural thing. I fell into magazines as a designer, became an art director, spent 12 years in the women's market magazines, and then started my own thing around about 15 years ago, which turned into a company with my mate, which was video focused. So I've had a lot of varied experience, and I can't quite tell you exactly what I am or am defined as. But yeah, I'm very passionate about the psychology of design, marketing, cinema, all of that stuff, and how we consume media. So, and how we look at our own lives, and how it's all interconnected, I suppose. But yeah, it's difficult to sometimes take a break from that because it's always all in your head.
Well, if you're a creative person, and that's, we don't necessarily need any specific labels, you are who you are, but I do see you as a creative. You are a creator, be it video, be it writing, be it visuals. You are a person who is really much immersed in the creative process, who enjoys experimenting and learning. And something that when people, maybe then reach and start looking who this guy is, then they will find very likely your LinkedIn, where you have a very impressive daily posting strike. You have such a creative content, and you also help people to get a little bit more comfortable on video, running, selfie video school, helping people with some prompts. So could you tell us a little bit about, maybe let's start with the LinkedIn side of things. Why LinkedIn? How do you get into that? And also, how do you really fuel up the daily creative routine, inspiration, time, because you have an impressive, strike.
Um, I don't know. Oh yeah, I haven't heard it called a strike before. The thing is, I think I I have always battled with confidence. So trying to find and writing was one area where I felt I could exercise some of that creativity, but I always did it in private, basically. So, you know, writing songs when I was growing up, I suppose, and writing scripts later on and things like that, which, you know, I would quickly shelve because I wouldn't have the confidence to do anything with them. And it wasn't until we started the company that I started writing a bit more creatively for business, which was kind of for our, you know, our own marketing reasons. And I would exercise a bit of that on Instagram, I suppose, with, you know, because when Instagram came along, it was very much geared towards creatives. And the beauty of it was I could put words with that and it didn't matter. I wasn't going to be, well, maybe I was going to be judged on it in my head, but I could kind of just exercise that creative muscle, I suppose. But because I was working in an environment which was magazines and I was essentially head of the art department did that side of it, and you're surrounded in a magazine by people who are writers. So you've got an editor who is generally a writer, deputy editor, features team, the subs desk, and even, you know, you go to say, because I was in the women's market, fashion and beauty, they write their own copy, etc. So as the art department, you're already on the back foot if you want to write. So it's not consciously encouraging that skill. And so there's no reason you would, you know, I would work with the features team and the subs team and the editor with titles, cover lines, quotes, things like that, things that bring a story to life, that have to work with the visuals and the way it's designed. The LinkedIn thing, I was, or we always identified LinkedIn as a good channel for, you know, as the kind of the most likely channel that we would, as a company, we were most likely to get leads from. The only thing was back then it was like super boring. So we would have fun on the other socials, you know, like Instagram and stuff, and not be very creative, particularly. It was just generally about kind of talking about the work that we were doing, I suppose. And it wasn't until 2022 I started writing. I was trying to find my, after COVID, you know, I did during that 2020, I had a massive gap, 3 month gap of work, I think probably more than that. So I went into all the projects that I wanted to do. I started a podcast. I, I started a kind of a business. I wouldn't say, well, still a dormant business, but it's more of a kind of an self exploration, which is probably just about coming to something now. And I would write more, be more creative. I started kind of writing blogs, things like that. And then, yeah, LinkedIn. I went to the Do lectures, you know, the Do lectures in 2022. And I felt like I had to write about that. So I wrote a post thinking, well, you know, other people were at that event, they're going to relate to it. So, and I wrote the next day and the next day and the next day. And then I got to the point I wrote 100 days and then somebody said, what's your game plan? And I was like, well, I don't have a game plan. I'm just kind of practicing my creative writing, I suppose. I wasn't trying to sell my wares particularly, but it's trying to get all the stuff out of here um, onto a page somewhere. And then so I kind of decided spontaneously, oh well, I'll go to 365 days, and then I did that, and then that it was like, oh, what now? Okay, I'll write for another year. So basically, my challenge to myself was just to write every day, and then the the figure was like 1,000 days. So I'm on at the moment I'm on about 900 and something days. So when I hit 1,000, I kind of figure I'm gonna might have a day off, or maybe 1,001 because it's a bit more of a creative number, right? I'll have a day off, but I can't not write. I think I need that in my life now. So, but I don't have necessarily that. I suppose that rigorous rule of must be every day. I don't know if what will happen, but I think momentum keeps me going. But your question, I realize I'm rambling now, but your question about routine is, I mean, I literally start thinking of things in those waking hours, and that is that's kind of when it comes. And I've tried other times, and it's just doesn't feel right. So so yeah, that's kind of the LinkedIn thing. And during that, I've had to keep the momentum going. I've had to create reasons to do that. So like 30 days streaks of writing about a particular subject. Selfie video school is something that is maybe I'll talk about a bit more. Um, Getting over your fear of video. So yeah, they're all kind of self challenges that I've turned into projects, mini projects on there, I suppose, aside from my work.
One thing that also is interesting when obviously, watching you, I know you, we've talked a few times, that I know that you are an introvert, that, people are, we can tolerate them sometimes, but they're overwhelming and they can bring on some challenges for us. And that's myself and Natalie as well in the same bag. And yet you really have nourished such a wealth of community, really, when someone comes across you on LinkedIn, that's community engagement, people, yes, building the selfie video school, doing things for people, doing projects with people. So there definitely seems to be a theme of pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and somehow really doing it, yes, for yourself, but attracting others and then doing it for others. I would love to really get your perspective on where then this social engagement, group, other people element, how it plays a role in you approaching LinkedIn or creativity or these many projects, and how do you also deal with the pressure of people?
Mm, it's a good question. Um, so during this writing journey, I've learned a lot about myself because that's what happens, isn't it? When you write about things that are internal and you're trying to figure things out, things come to light. And the thing that happens as well, if you're writing every day, is you find people who are doing the same thing, and you find people who are your tribe and who resonate with the things that you're talking about, especially if you're being quite open with the things that you're talking about that maybe people don't always chat about, and kind of itching for I suppose, a beacon or a signal to say it's okay to talk about that thing. And that has been amazing in the sense that the first time people, I guess, said, "Oh, I'm glad you said that," because I was thinking that, and then it opens a door. It kind of opens some possibility, I suppose, to the fact that you're not on your own in your thinking. And during the process of that first year, first 6 months of writing, actually, I read a post by Jude Schwepp, who I think you know, and it was about her getting a diagnosis of ADHD, adult ADHD, and I've always had very strong feelings that there's just something not fitting with the way that other people think, and I could never explain what that was. And I chatted to Jude, and there was just a kind of a parallel in what we were and what she was saying to me. And then since that conversation, I accidentally chatted to an ADHD coach. And then she recommended that I read a book, and I read this book, and it was basically this kind of journey of discovery. And I think aside from that ongoing exploration, the fact that community is important to me, I think comes from that, feeling quite alone sometimes, and it's in your thinking. And when you feel like that, when you feel like you don't fit with the way that society is built, or the way that education is built, or the way that business is built, and academia, etc., then you kind of need to find answers. And talking to people, I think I find that. And I did, one of the things that I did in those first 6 months was to hold like a 12-hour Zoom call so that I could meet people who I had met on LinkedIn, but I'd only met their words, right? My words meet their words, but I don't know the person behind it. So I started this thing called Open, and it was just an open call for people to drop in. And it was just a really, just exactly that, to meet those people and for them to meet each other, because there's not necessarily a space to do that. And yeah, I kept doing that every few months or so. And that's obviously where we met properly. And that has kind of gone on to be something that I almost rely on as a kind of, I need to do one of those opens because I haven't seen everybody for ages. It's difficult to fit stuff in. It's difficult to have calls with people, especially the work that I do. A lot of it is very time consuming, kind of editing and stuff. But the great thing about the open thing was I could kind of wrap it around a branding experiment as well, So I've kind of been playing with that and where that can go. But I would like to do some stuff in real life with that as well. But yeah, I think that hopefully answers your question about my need for people and my need for community, and the fact that if I need it, I know that other people need it too.
What you've been doing sounds amazing. And as Lenka says, it's finding a way to build community. As an introvert, we don't always want to have masses of people around, but we still do need that connection, that community, whether it's a community of one or two people or a community of hundreds of people. It's finding the right community. And it sounds like you've finding that balance. It's building that community through your words on a screen, the written word, but then also having that connection to that face to face, well, not face to face physically, but on the Zoom calls, is inviting people into your space for those periods of time where you can fit it in, whether it's around work or just what you're looking for. So it's not a commitment that you do every day, but it's something that you just bring in. So it sounds like a really great balance to finding where you fit in, because as you mentioned, it's we don't all fit into all the square boxes that are we meant to fit in. And it's I think it's branching out and finding how do I want to fit into this world, and how can I build my life around what suits me and what suits my personality, or the way that I like to work, or the way that I like to communicate, and all this. And you seem to be on the road to finding that. I mean, it's not been, you didn't wake up one morning and think that's how I'm going to do it, voila, but it's just trial and error and working it out. And these little challenges that you've given yourself with your writing have most probably helped on that journey, helped you to find a way. But one thing I'd like to know is you've always you mentioned you've always been creative writing, but then you put it in a drawer on a shelf because you didn't have the confidence to show other people. But you've been now regularly writing on LinkedIn, and you said it was 900 something days. I mean, wow, that's what, 3 years every day. I mean, that's a good commitment. But within yourself, how has that writing helped you to find or reconnect with who you are, or finding a way in life? How has that writing helped you? Because we've often talked about journaling on here. We've talked to authors, and they come from different ideas of writing, but you focused on social media essentially, and blogs. I don't know if you're also writing in notebooks, in a dark corner somewhere in your home, but you've really focused on putting your words out in the public space, essentially. How has that really grown for you, or helped you in moving forward, or in anything? How has that helped you as Andy the human?
Well, yes, I've got not thousands, but a lot of notebooks full of copious amounts of ideas and things and thoughts. The reason for doing it publicly was because if I didn't, I wouldn't. I thought if I can do this, if I can actually do it as a daily thing, I can, I suppose, well, part of it is validation. I recognized a few years back that I need validation for work, for stuff that I do. It's just part of me. It's really annoying. I don't want to need it. But one of the one of the things that is related to writing is I wrote something once on Instagram, and a writer friend of mine said, "You can write, Andy," and I was like, she's ex-editor, and so she knows what she's talking about. And for somebody from that background who to say that gave me permission to try a bit more, right? And then obviously it becomes, oh well, if I can write that, maybe I can write this. And can I push it a little bit further? I don't know. And then people started to say, oh, this is helping. And I was like, really? And I think that's because, I'm very, very conscious. I'm not giving anyone advice, but what I do is write about observations, I suppose. And those observations are often similar to maybe they contain a solution, or on the way to a solution that somebody is looking for, or maybe it's just the fact that it's been written about, perhaps. But so in that sense, that validation was coming in, And so it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to stop writing because now apparently it's helping people. So that's all right. And what it taught me, I suppose, about myself was that I can make things happen. I don't have to be caught in this, I'm caught in this eternal, in my head, it's an eternal loop of not getting anywhere. It's like this momentum wheel is stuck in the mud and it's just spinning. But in reality, it is moving, but it's moving maybe slower than people who live their lives in a normal way, whatever normal is, if that makes sense. But I think putting words down and out and playing with words. I love playing with words. So, I love playing with that convention of language. That's cool. You can really play with it. I think, sorry, this is where I lose my train of thought. This is literally, I've lost my train of thought. I'm talking about writing. Human side, yes. Well, it's put me in touch with essentially the question that I've always been asking, which is, why the hell don't I think like everybody else? And on one hand, recognizing, that's a positive because creativity is a really positive thing, but it's also frustrating because when you just don't have an ability to think in like, a linear way or a focused way, or the thoughts in your brain don't move to your mouth quickly enough to respond to somebody. I'm quite surprised I feel like I'm doing okay in this, which is quite a surprise to me. Yeah, so I think from that point of view, it's put me in touch with that. And the sort of the next stage in that was getting in front of a camera and talking, which I really never did, particularly, especially as me. So that has been, so in that way, it's helped because it's progressed into sharing. I've even recently shared things that I've written and I've videoed me reading them, which I would never do, never think in a million years to do. So yeah, so in that sense, it's all about self-acceptance, and if other people can accept their own flaws and everything, then hopefully that's helpful.
Sounds like a very interesting journey, and it's obviously expanded your comfort zone, because like you said, you would never in a million years read something aloud on video that you've written, and you doing that, and it's like, why would I do a video, if I can just write something? So it's expanding your comfort zone, or what you thought was your comfort zone, and it sounds like it's you finding more of you in there because you trying new things and doing it, maybe not as fast as you would like to do them, but you're doing them, so you're not totally stuck in the what was it, the motivation mud or anything. It's just progressing, but by the sounds of it, not as fast as you would like. But that's good, you're moving. My one question, because you mentioned that your background is cinema and film, and then you've gone into magazines and all that, is how has that all changed over the years? I mean, I think you mentioned about 15 years ago. I mean, it's very different now. And what have you noticed a difference in these mediums, and for you as well, is where do you see yourself in these mediums, moving or progressing or wanting or hoping for? Does that rambling question make sense?
Totally does, yeah. Well, as a kind of point of context, I finished my degree, my graphic design degree in '94, and my first job was as a runner at Pinewood Studios on an ad. So it was like this amazing introduction into this world I was obsessed with. And I was kind of like freelancing as a runner, and then I got a job as a production assistant in a music promo company, and then it was basically I was a bit skint. So that was when film was film. I had a Super 8 camera. That's all I could afford. There were video cameras about, but they were expensive, and the quality wasn't great. So I ended up, yeah, magazines. I saw the transition from I started in magazines in '98, and I saw the transition from essentially from analog to digital in the sense that photography was transitioning. So early 2000s photography was transitioning. Uh, and it took a while because you're dealing with print, you're dealing with really high resolution images that you need to print. So there was a point in time where that resolution wasn't enough. Some photographers were using a lot of digital and doing a lot of post production on their stuff on Photoshop, but the resolution sometimes wasn't quite holding it in print. Cameras for video were still quite limited until around 2000, and I would say 2006, 7, when the Canon 5Ds came out. And what the Canon 5Ds gave people the ability to do was shoot essentially HD video, but in a cinematic way, because obviously Canon lenses, great lenses, lots of lovely depth of field, etc. Um, and that was the point. I was still at Cosmopolitan at that point, so that was 2007. But I was also I used to run film nights to keep my foot in the door of the film world, and short film nights. So that was also, I realized, about community, the need for community, surrounding myself with people like me. So running those film nights, I was introduced to lots of talented people, independent filmmakers, who I'd later work with when I started, doing my video agency. Uh, but that's yeah, so that turned into a kind of an annual trip to Cannes, the Film Festival, with a van full of films. So we did this thing called Cannes in a Van, which was we would open the doors of the van on the Croisette for 2 weeks and then show independent films in a very kind of guerrilla way. And then the the technology during that time, promotion of the festival using Facebook and Instagram and stuff for that, a bit of Twitter. I had so many different accounts, I think. And then then, video technology, camera technology progressing, resolutions get better, more people enter the industry, not necessarily more courses open. There starts to become a kind of an influx of people getting into it because it's cheaper. And then you get to the point where social media becomes a lot about video, which was back when Vine started. I don't know if remember Vine, which is 6-second videos, and things like, what was it called? The thing that was like live streaming video. I can't remember what that was called. And obviously you know, Instagram switching reels on in like 2020, everything just accelerating, and all the time, more and more people coming into the industry, more and more saturated. It's cheaper, it's faster, everything, everyone wants something cheaper and faster, and that's what we started to notice when we started our company in 2013. And you know, probably about 3 years in, people were saying, can we have a 20-second film? And we were like, do you want 20 seconds, or do you want something that you can kind of chop up later, you know, something longer form that you can actually use parts of? So, and so there was you know, from a marketing perspective, there was a perceived need for this, the shorter the better, basically. So, and now we are at the stage where uh well, we're saturated with video now. So it's interesting. And when I started to explore my getting in front of the camera selfie video, that's when I thought about, well, maybe I should invite other people into this journey. So I kind of started a thing, you know, selfie video school, as a sort of a fun thing. So, and that has helped with confidence, and it's helped other people, I think, as well.
No, you're definitely not rambling. It's so interesting to get, a different perspective and get more into the thinking behind and the story behind, making of, becoming of, creating of. It's always so interesting. But as you were talking about where we are now, where we're heading, obviously I could not to think about AI, because we are in a world of AI and it's really pressing some buttons for people in terms of creativity, because it enables some sort of a enhanced creativity, and yet it strips away so much of the original creativity. And when now you look on Facebook and there's so many videos and people believe that this is real and they're not, the detachment, there's so many obviously little caveats of the AI conversation. I don't want necessarily to fully go in, but I would just love your perspective on how are you feeling about, AI, where we're heading with video, with creativity, how much it's helping or hurting, not only business wise. Of course, we can imagine the ramifications for businesses for making money, but also thinking about just us as human beings, our human spirit, our human creativity, our humanness overall.
Yeah, it's a big question, isn't it? It's a big question that I struggle with answering, really, because I use AI. I've used AI in tools, integrated into tools for years without really thinking it's AI. You know, I use Premiere and After Effects on a daily basis, and any of those tools use some kind of an AI transcript software that was around before ChatGPT and stuff. So um, it's it's been a slower, it's been a relatively slow burn until 2022 when ChatGPT came out. And what that did for me was it became something that I could use to get my thoughts straight sometimes. I've never used it for writing, but um, to explore a document that is full of letters that are just, I mean, I have a problem with too much information, absorbing it. So ways of using AI to kind of to digest that stuff is, or to make it digestible, is useful. When it comes to video and the questionable uses of it, I think it has generally, different platforms have democratized creativity over time. Things like 99 Designs and Fiverr, things like that. But there's always been a human at the end of it. Then when the when we kind of started being a little bit more obsessive over AI, then I think there was a hunger for let's find out what can do something the fastest. Creating images. I mean, I use Mid-Journey for storyboarding sometimes to create an image that I can't get photographically from a library or whatever. So it's really useful in some ways, but it is undoubtedly, absolutely the most threatening element to every industry that we've had, apart from itself. So even tech, you know, code, like writing code. So people who write code, it's like it's coming for them too. So it's a really hard one because I I know there are two camps. One camp is very much embracing it and not really seeing the other side of it. They don't see, they're blindsided to the effect it's going to have on society and the fact that people are going to be like, where is my job? Or go and get a job over there. Well, sorry, but there's 1,000 people going for that job now. So what does that mean? And the there's the camp that are completely pushing it away and rejecting it. And then I said two camps, there's obviously a third camp in the middle, the Venn diagram in the middle, who I guess I would say I'm in, where I'm aware of the threat and I'm aware of the very real human casualty kind of, you know, societal casualties of, you see it everywhere. And we're very early in the stage of it at the moment. but but I do see the potential in it too. So it's a really difficult one, and my world has been one of the first to be affected. Photographers, illustrators, writers. I mean, writers. And it is an easy option for businesses. It's an easy ask, isn't it? It's like, well, just get rid of that person. We'll get AI, some kind of form of AI to do it because, well, they say it does that thing as well as the person did it. So, yeah, but there's no substitute for actually a person. There isn't. So, I don't know where we're going to go with it. But I would like people to just think about the people who are being put out of jobs because there are AI gurus, whatever that even means. It basically means somebody's using AI enough that they know enough about it on a daily basis to advise people about the tools that they can use without thinking about what they're doing. So it's kind of inviting change in where they don't really have a plan for what that change does on, you know, what consequences that change has, if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes total sense. And obviously we could go into more of the potential dangers and risks, I would say, of AI with not only the human element in terms of the jobs, but also the eco-friendliness or more likely the unfriendliness of AI, of how much of our water and resources and heat it really consumes, and what we have to now do to be able to power all these AI machines. So that is completely a separate conversation. But I really want to bring it back to then the video and human a little bit, because that's one thing where I then see anyone and everyone having an advantage over AI. It's the authentic, raw humanness, it's the selfies, it's the showing the face and telling your story, telling your truth, sharing your perspective. And that's something that AI cannot do. It's the originality.
Yes. So there's a line, isn't there? There's going to be a point where it will be able to emulate. Oh, hey. It will be able to emulate some of that humanity. Um, and I don't know when that is coming, but it's coming soon. And it will be one of those standout moments in media and social media where it's like, oh my God, this is an AI talking. This is not somebody doing a selfie video. This is actually so. But there are, I mean, voiceover is one example of, that's at a stage at the moment where there are very natural sounding voiceovers when written with the right intonations, etc. But we do lose something massively, and I think there's an opportunity for people to embrace the fact that they are people. There's 1,000 people. I mean, how many people are using ChatGPT to write their posts on LinkedIn, for example, uh, and design things and come up with, concepts, etc. But there is, I think, an opportunity for people who value that human element and that human originality and uniqueness to work with each other, um, and to champion it, because as people say, AI is based on what's been before. Yes, you can combine two ideas and come up with a third, as many artists do, with influence and stuff like that. But you hope that the craft side of it, the human side of it, the documentary storytelling of what somebody's real life is about, that won't change, and that will become, I think, more valuable because people need that. Just like I need people, I need community, I need actual people. We couldn't have this conversation. I mean, why would I have a conversation with two AI people? That's going to happen, but why would you even want to do that? So, um, so yeah, maybe I don't have a very good answer for that, but that's about all I've got for that one.
There is no right or wrong answer. It's not that we're looking for a specific, it's an opinion, it's an insight, it's an idea, it's an observation. And as I said earlier, observations are something that your brain works through, processes things, you share, we relate to one another through observation. So that's, it's perfectly good answer for us.
Cool. Well, that's good. um,
It's the human answer, and that's what we want. We want, because everybody, as you said, humanness, uniqueness, and it's just getting your perspective on it, especially being in the creative field. And one thing I have noticed is I do watch quite a few watch a lot of podcasts that are on YouTube, but when you're scrolling through, you get random videos thrown at you. And I have started to notice the AI voiceovers. They all sound the same. You can see that different people have put the videos up, but they've got the same voice. And I, to be honest, my opinion, and this is me, is I don't really like them. I then just bypass them and go to the human. I do like to see the human. So thank you for sharing that, because it is about it is about having more life in one's life, but that is part of the humanness and the connection and opinions and perspectives, because everybody has a unique way of looking at the world. And so your answer was great because it came from the heart. It just came out in in your own way and used your own words. So thank you. We weren't looking for a definitive yes, no, bad, good. We just wanted to know somebody who's in the field of AI and or who's come across AI. And as you said, you've used it as a tool, but you are seeing where it's potentially going. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no worries. I know. I mean, I understand that you're not asking for a definable answer. But I suppose that goes back to the doubt thing. I'm very self-deprecating in nature, which is a protection mechanism, really, I suppose. So I'm always apologizing, which I need to stop doing.
Yeah, you don't need to apologize for being who you are. Hop on to our Patreon account to get this episode's amazing and wonderful gold nugget. So now if people thinking, wow, I want to find out more about what Andy's doing, I want to connect with him, I want to do whatever or see or talk to him or try this 12-hour Zoom rooms or see your posts, where can people find you?
Well, basically LinkedIn. I'm on there every day. Excuse me. And my the video company is called Swipe, SWHYPE. That's what we do, video wise. But all the stuff that I do that is kind of away from work is called Square One, which is, I'd like to spell things weirdly, SCWAIR1.com. And that's kind of, that's like a self exploration site, I suppose, that I use for anything that is related. So it has the open. I'm doing another open in February, end of February, I think. The self video school thing, I'll probably do another one of those quite soon too. And I'm asking anyone who wants to write something about being human to submit to the open book, which is a project, yet another project, but it's a community writing project. So there's that as well. But yeah, LinkedIn is the place for all of that stuff. Andy Greenhouse, that's my name.
Thank you for that. And all the links will be in the description so people can just click on them and connect with you. So I think it'd be wonderful. And thank you so much for, sharing your time, sharing a little bit about your experiences, about who you are, and, introducing our listeners to Andy and just being open and, unique in the way that you've expressed yourself. So thank you so much for sharing with us today.
Thanks, Natalie. Cheers. Thanks, Lenka.
And for our
Appreciate it.
listeners, what have you got from today? Is AI something that you're thinking about? Is it something that you use? Or are you in the camp, well, no, we're not going to touch AI? Or do you love it and embrace it fully, or are you in the Venn diagram in the middle? We'd love to hear your thoughts, and we would love to hear what aha moments have you got from this conversation today. Is writing something that you're going to start doing? Can you do 30 days every day writing something? There's a little challenge for you. But we'd love to hear your thoughts and love to hear what you think about AI, writing, social media, LinkedIn, any of the topics that we've spoken about today. And until next time, we'll talk to you soon. Bye.